The FIFA World Cup is more than just a football tournament. It is the biggest stage in world sport. Every 4 years, nations stop, cities fall silent, and billions of people come together to witness history being written. For some players, it is the chance to achieve immortality. For others, it may be their final opportunity to complete a lifelong dream. And that is exactly what makes the 2026 FIFA World Cup so special. This tournament is not simply about lifting a trophy. It is about legacy. It is about proving that greatness can be sustained. And no nation understands that challenge better than Argentina. 4 years ago, Argentina completed one of the greatest stories football has ever seen. After years of heartbreak, criticism, and near misses, Lionel Messi finally lifted the World Cup trophy and fulfilled the dream of an entire nation. The images from Qatar became immortal. Messi standing on top of the football world. Argentina celebrating with millions of supporters across the globe. And a generation of players achieving something that many thought was impossible. But football never stops. The celebrations end, the memories remain, and eventually a new challenge arrives. Now Argentina enters the 2026 World Cup carrying a completely different responsibility. They are no longer chasing history. They are defending it. The challenge of becoming world champions is enormous. The challenge of remaining world champions may be even greater. Throughout football history, many great teams have reached the summit. Very few have managed to stay there. That is why Argentina's biggest battle in 2026 may not be against another nation. It may be against complacency, against satisfaction, against the natural tendency to relax after achieving the ultimate goal. Inside the squad, however, there is a belief that the hunger remains as strong as ever. The players know that winning another World Cup would elevate this generation into a completely different category. Back-to-back world champions, a title reserved only for the rarest teams in football history. And at the center of everything remains one man, Lionel Messi. For nearly 2 decades, Messi has redefined what is possible on a football pitch. He has broken records, won every major trophy, and inspired millions of people around the world. Yet the reality is impossible to ignore. Time moves forward. And many believe that 2026 could represent Messi's final appearance on football's biggest stage. That possibility changes everything. For Argentina, this World Cup is not only about defending a title, it is also about maximizing every remaining moment with the greatest player of his generation. His teammates understand it. His supporters understand it. And football fans around the world understand it, whether they support Argentina or not. Because players like Messi do not come around very often. The opportunity to watch them perform at a World Cup is something that should never be taken for granted. But Argentina's future cannot rely solely on nostalgia. While the experienced core remains intact, a new generation is beginning to emerge. Young players are entering the squad with fresh energy, fresh ideas, and a determination to create their own place in history. That balance between experience and youth could become one of Argentina's greatest strengths. The veterans understand the pressure of winning. The younger players bring the fearlessness of those who have nothing to lose. Together, they create a team capable of competing with anyone. However, World Cups are never predictable. One mistake, one difficult night, one unexpected result. And everything can change. The difference between champions and contenders is often determined by how a team responds when adversity arrives. Argentina learned that lesson during previous tournaments, and it remains one of the biggest reasons why they continue to be viewed as one of the favorites heading into 2026. The dream now is simple: to defend their crown, to make history once again. And perhaps to give Lionel Messi the perfect final chapter. But Argentina will not be alone, because across the world, other footballing giants are preparing their own assault on football's greatest prize. And among them is a nation carrying the hopes of another legendary icon. If Argentina's story is about defending greatness, then Portugal's story is about chasing one final dream. For years, Portuguese football has been defined by one name: Cristiano Ronaldo, a player who transformed not only his national team, but the entire history of Portuguese football. From Sporting, Lisbon to Manchester United, from Real Madrid to Juventus, Cristiano Ronaldo built a career that very few athletes in any sport could ever imagine. Goals, records, championships, individual awards. He has achieved almost everything, yet there remains one prize that continues to stand above all others: the FIFA World Cup. As the 2026 tournament approaches, there is a growing feeling that this could be Ronaldo's final opportunity to accomplish the one achievement missing from an extraordinary career. For Portugal, that reality creates both motivation and responsibility. The younger players understand exactly what Ronaldo means to their country. Many of them grew up watching him. Many of them dreamed of sharing a dressing room with him. And now they have the opportunity to help deliver the ultimate ending to one of football's greatest stories. But Portugal's hopes do not depend on Cristiano Ronaldo alone. This generation possesses something that previous Portuguese teams often lacked: depth, balance, and elite quality across multiple positions. From defense to midfield to attack, Portugal possesses one of the most talented squads in world football. There is belief inside the camp that this team has everything required to compete for the biggest prize in the sport: experience, youth, technical quality, and perhaps most importantly, confidence. Because when talent and belief come together, extraordinary things can happen. Yet Portugal knows that potential means nothing without results. The history of football is filled with talented teams that never fulfilled expectations. That is why 2026 represents such an important moment, not only for Ronaldo, but for an entire generation determined to prove they belong among football's elite nations. And while Portugal dreams of history, another football powerhouse arrives with unfinished business: France, a nation that has become one of the dominant forces in international football. Over the last decade, France has built a level of consistency that very few countries have managed to achieve. World Cup winners in 2018, World Cup finalists in 2022, always competing, always dangerous, always among the favorites. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of France's rise has been the emergence of a player many believe could define the next era of football: Kylian Mbappé. When France won the World Cup in 2018, Mbappé was still a teenager. Yet even then, it was obvious that football was witnessing the arrival of a future superstar. Fast, fearless, decisive, and capable of changing a game in an instant. Since then, he has evolved from a promising talent into one of the most complete players in world football. For many supporters, 2026 represents the beginning of Mbappé's era, an opportunity not merely to compete for a World Cup, but to establish himself as the undisputed leader of French football. France enters the tournament carrying expectations that come with success. Whenever a nation consistently reaches the final stages of major competitions, anything less begins to feel like disappointment. That pressure is real, but it is also a reflection of how strong this French team has become. Inside the squad, there is a belief that the mentality remains unchanged. The hunger remains intact. The desire to win remains stronger than ever. And perhaps that mentality is France's greatest weapon. Because talent alone does not win World Cups. Sacrifice wins World Cups. Discipline wins World Cups. Resilience wins World Cups. France understands that better than most. They know that being one of the favorites guarantees nothing. History offers countless examples of highly rated teams falling short when it mattered most. The difference between success and failure often comes down to a single moment, a single decision, a single opportunity. And that is exactly why the World Cup remains the most difficult trophy in football to win. For France, the objective is clear: return to the summit, add another star above the badge, and continue building a legacy that future generations will remember. But neither Portugal nor France can afford to look too far ahead, because elsewhere, another football giant is preparing to make its own statement: a nation built on flair, creativity, passion. And some of the greatest players the game has ever seen. A nation that believes football is more than a sport. A nation called Brazil. If there is one nation that lives and breathes football more than any other, it is Brazil. For generations, Brazil has represented the beauty of the game: the yellow shirt, the samba style, the creativity, the confidence. And a history filled with some of the greatest players football has ever seen: Pelé, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, Neymar, names that have inspired millions around the world. Yet despite producing world-class talent year after year, Brazil's wait for another World Cup title continues. The nation that once dominated world football has spent more than 2 decades searching for a return to the summit. And now, 2026 presents another opportunity. A chance to remind the world why Brazil remains one of football's most feared nations. Unlike previous generations, this Brazilian squad enters the tournament with a mixture of established stars and fearless young talent. Players who have grown up carrying the expectations of an entire footballing nation. A nation where football is not simply watched. It is lived. Every World Cup brings enormous pressure for Brazil, because for Brazilian supporters, competing is never enough. The expectation is victory. Nothing less. That pressure can create heroes, but it can also create heartbreak. And throughout recent tournaments, Brazil has experienced both. Now they arrive in 2026 determined to write a different ending, an ending worthy of their history. An ending worthy of their supporters, an ending worthy of the famous yellow shirt. But Brazil is not the only nation looking to reclaim former glory. Spain arrives with ambitions of its own. More than a decade ago, Spain changed football forever. Their dominance between 2008 and 2012 remains one of the greatest eras any national team has ever produced. European champions, world champions. A generation that transformed possession football into an art form. They didn't just win. They controlled games in a way that few teams ever have. For years, every nation tried to copy them. Every coach tried to understand them. Every opponent tried to stop them. Now a new Spanish generation is attempting to create its own legacy, one that respects the past without being trapped by it. This team may be young, but it is also fearless, a squad filled with technical quality, intelligence, and ambition. The players understand the responsibility that comes with wearing the Spanish shirt, but they are also determined to write their own chapter in football history. There is a growing belief that Spain possesses all the ingredients required to challenge for the biggest prize in world football: a clear identity, a strong philosophy, a commitment to teamwork, and perhaps most importantly, a group of players willing to sacrifice everything for one another. Because in modern football, talent alone is never enough. The strongest teams are usually the strongest families, and Spain hopes that unity can carry them all the way to the final. So as the world moves closer to the 2026 FIFA World Cup, one question continues to dominate every conversation. Who will lift the trophy? Will Argentina defend their crown and give Lionel Messi one final unforgettable chapter? Will Portugal complete the ultimate fairy tale for Cristiano Ronaldo? Will France continue their era of dominance under Kylian Mbappé? Will Brazil finally end years of frustration and return to the top of world football? Or will Spain announce the arrival of a new golden generation? The truth is that nobody knows, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes the World Cup so special. It is a tournament where reputations mean nothing once the whistle blows, where favorites fall, where underdogs rise, where legends are created, and where a single moment can change football history forever. Every nation arrives with dreams. Every player arrives with hope. But only one team will leave as world champions. Only one captain will lift the most famous trophy in sport. And only one nation will earn a place in history. The road to glory is about to begin. The stage is set. The world is watching. And football's greatest story is ready to be written once again.